orchestration of email is a great way to start because in the 90s no one knew what it was, and so the first description of it was something of a radical explanation, but it was all reality's actual faction. So the confidence of anyone who's explaining the email for the first time, little footnote, DARPA was the ones who created the internet, so it would be of classical for them to be the spokesman of what an email was. The binary of it had been around even before DARPA thought up of what internet was, because out in the East, algorithms were discovered before computers were invented. Do you know why particle board is important? Because it's not made up of real particles. If you had a springboard with a whole bunch of jigsaw puzzle pieces on top of it, and some of it were put together, and you sprung that sucker, and they all landed in the right place, that would be the representation of entropy. Whether when a bomb goes off, trying to put it back, people don't. Let me start over. Stop making car noises. The majority of the people don't know the difference between a neutron and a neutrino. Off the top of my head, if I was asked this question on the road, it's like they both have neutral charge, and by neutral I mean cancellation of a positive and negative is a neutral. And the theorem of math covering zoology, because animals were not one, but we're mammals, so the animal kingdom has a treasure trove of dynamics that are easier to point your finger at. A platypus, they have a beak. We have lips. Miscommunicating the two can mean that your lips are going to break. But if you apply enough force, if you had a platypus beak, it would break. Knowing the breaking point of either are extremely important when you're taking anything hazardous. How many things are hazardous nowadays? This brings us back into a neutron and a neutrino. So if you've got a beam, let's just take that with a grain of salt. Here's the other thing, plants. If someone's saying they're growing like a flower inside of a peanut isn't soil, it's really condensed. So, there might be one root that comes out of it, like an onion has a root coming out of it if you leave it there long enough. Other than that, you're not going to really grow a plant out of a peanut. And it's just a conception that with a grain of mustard seed, having the faith of a mustard seed, that's the smallest type of seed. And really, it's like, if you're going to grow something in a small condensed area, it would be a mustard seed. And other than that, you can't really say all that much that you're going to grow like a garden out of one peanut. It doesn't really work that way. And so that's a different way of understanding theorems. And why theorems are important to understand is because when these people in charge, here we go, sounding like Rage Against the Machine already. We're still recording. Yeah, I just hate being like cheesy because I'm not a revolutionary. I'm trying to be old-fashioned, but there's so many like ways of sounding stupid when you're just saying basic stuff. It blows over the head and loses the attention of so many. But if after a bomb explodes, putting it back together, you can't really do that because it's a problem of nuclear fusion. Putting toothpaste back into the tube, you can't really do that because it's like the same problem of a bomb exploding. The entropy is hard to put back in reverse. Now, physics doesn't say it can't be done, it's just it doesn't happen because of time. And the gravity behind time is that Satan tried to take over heaven and God bound him for eternity into hell. That's real over time. So if you look at time, us being on earth, excuse my lips if they got saliva on it. Our time on earth, some people are getting sent to hell. And if you don't believe that, they're already there right now. And if you don't believe that, that's perfectly fine. It's best you don't. But just the fact that there's a devil, most people would believe that's true. So just the fact that he wants to take souls of people who are living, is over the top as it is. So that's how powerful time is. The devil has to abide by the same time we go off of. And that's really powerful. That's as epic as it gets. So taking boring stuff with as epic as it gets, back to the neutron and neutrino beam. If you got some sort of a beam, you look at something, you're creating a beam because your eyes are bouncing photons off of it, and that's how you see. So don't get, it's too hardcore about the word beam. If you got a beam and you're taking out neutrons and neutrinos, that's a certain example of how to understand a word problem of a bomb and toothpaste, trying to reverse those after they've had an action done with them. Occupying area and land is something where, you're not able to do this effectively if you've got a giant land. And so the idea that that is a possibility can be seen with how good your stuff on the land is. Now, there's two ways of looking at this. If one was already an occurrence, it would have been a Garden of Eden, where the entire earth would have been as perfect as it could get. And what this means to me is all the plants bearing fruit as easily as the seed put into the ground, it just pops up with fruit. This is a statistic that can occur, but it just doesn't. And if it did, it would be a fairy tale like Jack and the Beanstalk, But subjectively, in the Garden of Eden Earth would be this giant garden where that was occurrence with any fruit. It would just bear the best of it. And this is in natural selection of genes. And so since humans are made up of genes and so are plants, I can only imagine how everyone would want to be perfect, like the Garden of Eden once were. But other than just plants, it could be like how obstacles of man-made. And man-made things are giant because the crossover of plants being manufactured is a statistic from what is known as genetically modification, GMO. And that's where FDA, I'd like to slap in the face and spit in their eye. Because they're not informing anyone, and the moment that they're called out for things that they should be not passing, they cancel a board, hire new people, vote among themselves. They don't get what they want, they cancel that board, fire everyone, buy up a new board. Of these dangerous companies that if they have a fallout, they just go and get a spot in the chair of their company, and after the board's fired, this game. And it's all to play with lives of GMO and to people stuff more radical than that. GMO is just the face value, and that's one fallout where I'm yet to have handy with them. But first, yet to have handy with them in the court of law. But first, the screw head of a tool chest, a screw you find that's loose, the significance of that to the needle nose of a airplane. I don't know which airplane. And thanks for sticking with me. The movie Aviator with Leonardo DiCaprio, when he pulls that front of the plane and it starts chopping, that compared to a screw going in is a statistic, and how well one's make up from the other is a denotation of the statistic. That can be looked at as what buying local is. Everyone tries to. If there's a name of a store, that's the town that you're in. And thanks for watching. This is disgusting. The sap frozen? Discoloration. So, how much is buying local? Is it the name of the town as the part of the business? Grafton AM Coffee, the amount of how local that is, you've got to break down where they get their raw goods from. And so that's one lane in between of a fallout or deception, if it can or cannot be the thing that you're thinking it as. Oh, my arm's fucking lost in a world that doesn't exist until the immovable object means an unstoppable force. This is a scenario where if you don't know what things are made up of as, or genetically modified as, it's really easy to be sold. But even without visual effects or special audio effects, it's like how there's things called quantum dots. They're made up of like silicon and like 3 other chemical things, and their sole purpose is to get attenuated. And this is the opposite of what the glands do, which is the sole purpose is correlate. There are major things that make society work. Energy and food are both one of them. But how much energy and food can one consume versus everyone all together are 2 entirely different questions. Now, food does make energy, but can energy make food? Photosynthesis. Trick question. Yes, it does. But to what degree is how accurate that when everything's in collapsing because the supply chain has been broken? Answer my own question. Milking, sapping is how much the land of you're in is a quality of price points and tagging stuff. The price point and tagging stuff, middleman cutting him out, that should be a competition of how much, because the other than genetically modified stuff, which is like the middleman's cash cow, is because then you can add in more additives. And I love Cheetos, but more importantly, what is a fashionista if there ever was one in an entire state? But more importantly, the designer of the fashionista, you know, is how well you're wearing the clothes versus how well it's actually made up of. So it's not even a thing where most people don't know the difference of that, but the difference of if there was one in every state having the top. We're in athletics, you don't have this thing other than like a renowned professional baseball team or football. Professional sports teams don't usually have people there in the state that have been in the state for a long. They're usually traded, and then they retire in the state if they make a name for themselves. That's not what I'm talking about. And they should be put up to the test against an athlete in the state of being the best renowned one. Wouldn't that be something to get the crowd hype? You know, it's not a thing, it's hard to picture, I know, but bear with me here. Bear with me here.